Hey guys, it's Maymay and welcome to Stamping Saturday. This is the day of the week when we play with products from the store. I show you some ideas for using some things and we try to focus on stamping. Today I'm going to focus on one sheet of paper and we're going to make a card from one sheet of paper using some layers, using some different techniques, and mostly stamping because that's what I want to do. But when I was cutting this card up for the video, when I was prepping my papers, I thought, you know what? This is going to be made from one sheet and I want to show you how this works. So using one 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, we're going to make an A2 size card and use most of the pieces. So I'm going to take this cardstock first, and I like to do my cards like this the long way, or when they're folded it's called portrait versus landscape. So I'm going to cut this piece at 4 1/4. So that's what I've done. I basically have made 2 card bases from one piece of cardstock, but this one's going to be my card base. This one I'm going to trim down one more time, couple times. I'm going to trim it first to 4 inches because that's the size I want the front mat to be. So I'm going to have this little strip that I'm probably not going to use, but I might. Then I'm going to cut a piece that's 5 1/4. Ooh, slammed that down. And then I'm going to cut another piece that's 5 1/4. And I plan to use all of these pieces in making my card. So here's the pieces I don't plan to use from that whole piece of paper. Not much, huh? You could use them. I just think I'm not going to use them. I may end up. We'll see. So now that I have cut that, I want to show you kind of what that lays out to look like. This is the card base, half of that sheet right there. This is another cut. This is another cut. So here and here is all we're losing from this whole sheet of paper. These guys we're going to stamp. This guy I'm just going to score to be my card base, and we'll go back to it in a few minutes. So put it in my scoreboard, score it at 5 1/2 inches, flip it over, and then I'm going to crease it with my bone folder. So our card base is ready to go. All right, move that out of our way. Now then we're going to stamp, which is my favorite part. So I'm going to bring these guys back over. One of these is going to be the inside and one is going to be the outside. So I'm going to move this guy out of the way and work on this one. So I have these circle dies from Brutus Monroe, and something that has been super popular lately, and if you watch my Bible journaling videos, you're going to see this technique used a couple times because I'm going to use it again in my Bible journal because I've already filmed that video. But I just fell in love with the opportunities we can get with this sort of idea I'm going to show you today. So I'm pulling out one of these dies, but I'm not going to use it to cut out. I'm going to use it as a template. So I'm going to lay this on my card kind of in the middle, like so, just about like this. I'm just eyeballing it. If you need to know exact, do your measuring and get it exact, but I'm pretty good with this. So now I'm going to take a pencil, and on the inside of this circle, I'm going to trace it. Now the reason I'm doing the inside is because I don't want a huge circle. I want to have some room around that circle. I'm going to let this circle be my guide for stamping a floral wreath. You know, they're so popular nowadays. The wreath look with the writing inside, that's what we're looking for. But I also want this to kind of keep me out of these edges because I'm going to use another stamp set for the edges. That's my plan. Let's get started with stamping. So the first stamp set I'm going to use is this one that's called Stitch Sentiments, and I'm going to use the sentiment that says Home Sweet Home. And before I lay out my wreath, I want to put my sentiment on the inside so I can know how much room I have for the wreath. So I'm going to do this one in VersaFine. I'm probably going to play with all VersaFine inks today, and I think I will use Onyx Black for my sentiment in the middle. So just ink this guy up. I'm just using my little 1-inch cubes today just because they're handy and I want to use multiple colors. There's that. And I'm just going to stamp this right in the center. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it's going to be pretty close, I hope. Just like that. Super cute. Now I'm going to use a stamp set that's called Garden Party. And we're going to use all these little flowers. Not all of them, but plenty of them to make the look we want. So I've pulled out several of my little 1-inch cubes. And I'm just going to start with a flower. This one is a rose. I'm going to stick that one on. And let's start with red since it's a rose. And where my circle is where my wreath is going to live, if that makes sense. I think it does. So I'm using that little pencil mark circle to kind of guide me. And I'm just going to make sure I stamp on and off around that circle. And it'll help me to keep my wreath shape. So I like that rose there. I think I'll add another one down here. Again, trying to stay in the shape. And then maybe one right over here. Yeah, I like that. So then, and I've got my little scrubber here so you can see. I'll bring it into the camera. So I scrub over here and then I clean off over here like so. And then it's clean and ready to go back. So I'll put that back on my sheet. Now I'm going to bring out another flower. Now I'm going to take my favorite VersaFine color, which is Habanero, and this really big flower, and I'm just going to kind of continue to build this wreath using these pretty little flowers. And I may not put 3 every time. I'm going to do 2 of that one, clean it off and put it up. Now I'm going to work my way down with a smaller flower, and I'm going to use this color called Toffee, which is kind of a lighter color. And the smaller flowers are great for like filler flowers, you know, to kind of move around the wreath. Now I'm taking some leaves, and this is where you have a lot of fun. It's hard for me to do this on camera because I want to get over the top, but this is where we're going to just start kind of filling out this whole wreath form, or making it more like a wreath. I'm going to turn it and make it comfortable for me to use. And let's see, I'm going to go this way here, and I'm just going to fill in. One thing I'm really trying to be careful not to do is to drop. It's really easy to get going and kind of get going too fast and drop your stamp, and then I've ruined the whole thing. So I'm trying to be really careful about that. And as a tip, if you're not sure which one to use, you can always take the stamp set to your project and kind of get an idea. I think this one would look good. Just kind of move it around there and kind of see which one strikes your fancy. I'm going to change the color again. This time I'm going to use Olympia green, which is a darker green. I'm going to start here in this top. It's really starting to come together, right? I think it's really cool. And now let's do some more. You just stop when you feel like you've got enough, but I could keep going for a while. This time I'm going to use some vintage sepia. I think that'll be pretty with this leaf. This is a very kind of airy textural leaf. And I'm not sure where we're going yet. We're just going to play. Now from another stamp set I have now that's called Patina, I'm going to take this broken brick, that's what I like to call it, broken brick, and I'm going to go around the edges. This is why I wanted to be able to see where that wreath was going to be first, and I'm going to put this texture there around all 4 edges. So let me decide what color I want to use for that. I kind of want to use this Toffee. But you know, you could mix your inks. You don't have to use just one kind of ink. You could mix them all up. Let me put something behind here. This is the packaging from a stamp set. I call it a trash tool. It's just something I left in the package, and I use it for whenever I want to stamp off the page like this. So I'm going to ink this brick up. So now I'm just inking the brick up with the Toffee color. And I won't use all of it, but I want it to come around the edge of my card. Kind of like the brick kind of gives up and the wreath takes over, if that makes sense. So just playing with stamping, because I think that's going to be so pretty when we finish all those stamps. So let's keep stamping it. I'm going to do this on all 4 corners, and I may even fill in a little bit in the middle with it. And now from the same stamp set, I'm going to take the smaller version of that broken brick, and there's a big one and a little one, and I'm going to take this gray color, which is called Smoky Gray from VersaFine, and I'm going to do a second generation, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stamp it on my trash tool here, so I take some of the ink off, and then I'm just going to come into some of the places, make sure you can see what I'm doing here, like here, and I'm just going to stamp a little more to add a little more texture here and there around the edges. Then I want to show you. So I've inked it. I'm going to stamp it off several times. And here's something else. You can pick the ink back up that you've laid down here if you need to use that ink. And what I'm going to do is just kind of go around. And as the ink wears off, I'm just leaving like a skeleton of that pattern behind. It's second and third generation because I'm just going everywhere with it just to get more texture, just to build a little more to the front of that card. It seems like we've gone crazy, but I really think it's going to turn out cool. Now I want to kind of match the outside of the card, and I'm going to do it on the inside just to leave some texture from this stamp. Just some of the brick texture. See how I've just left a little there, and I'm going to turn it around. I'm just cleaning up what's on this stamp. And I really don't mind how pale it is, just so we have some pattern on the inside as well. I mean, I'm really just cleaning my stamp off on this page. Now for the inside of my card, I'm going to use this new sentiment stack from Brutus Monroe that I'm absolutely in love with. And he has a saying, Christopher has a saying that he says called create your own ending. And since the front of this says home sweet home, I think this will be cool to kind of have down here in the bottom and leave it open for me to write a sentiment to whoever it may go. I don't know where it may end up, but I'm going to use my VersaFine again. And I'm just going to use my big Onyx Black this time since I have it right here beside me. Make sure I have this upright. One way to know, which is really cool, is Christopher made sure to put the wording on the outside. So if you're reading the words, then you know this is straight up and down. That's a cool thing to know. And then I'm just going to stamp this close to the bottom. And I don't care if it goes over some of my texture or not. I think that'll be cool if it does. Just get that there. And look, create your own ending. Isn't that cool? Love it. Okay, let me put this guy away. So you remember how earlier we put the card base together? We have this piece just like this so we can kind of have a little difference around the edge. I want to show you something I want to do there as well. But first, because I almost forgot, I want to erase any of the pencil line that I can get off of here because I can still see a little bit of it. It's not too bad, but any that's still showing I'm going to erase. So what I'm doing here, this is my card base, okay? So I've closed it up and I've got it laying on my little trash tool and I've taken some of the satin red, which is the color of the first rose that I used, and I'm gonna make my card base be exactly the same color as the red I'm using in the flower by just dragging this down like this. So like if you don't have the perfect color paper, this is how you can get a mat that matches your stamping exactly just by dragging your ink pad along the edges just enough for your front mat to sit on it. Now notice something else I'm doing. I started over here and I'm moving the card so I don't get any of that red ink on the back side because I just want it here. And in here I've got to get into that score line good. There we go. All right, so I need to let that dry for a second and then it's ready. But see, I kept the back clean. That's a little fuzz, but I kept the back clean of ink. That was important. Let's go ahead and clean this and then move it out of the way. Now I'm going to glue this straight down to the card. You don't have to. You can pop it up with some dimensional foam. If you do that, just make sure you put enough ink here to go in the card enough so that you don't see where your ink stops when it's lifted up. I hope that made sense. But sometimes when you lift the card up, you can see underneath. You just want to make sure you have plenty of that ink line. Look how pretty that is on the front. I just love that. Now we can put the inside in. Now here you might decide that you want to ink these edges as well. And I think I do, especially because, look, I got a little ink right there. I got a little bleed on the inside. So let's fix it. We're going to close this guy up. Bring our tool back over. I'm going to start on this edge. Same color ink. I'm going to start on this edge so I can work my way over. Make a stripe of that red color. Just like so. Move that a little bit and then do it again. Just enough to be a mat for my card insert. Another reason I didn't pop this one up is because I am putting a piece on the inside too, so it's going to be a fairly thick and sturdy card. So I really didn't need to pop the front up with that dimension, so especially if I'm going to mail it. Okay, let that dry a second. So there we go, the outside. Look how cool that is. And all done with stamps, one dimensional except for the little mat we put on the card, matching our inks, very custom looking, right? Look at the inside. It looks so cool. You could even texturize this if you felt like it. I got a little ink up there, but I'm not going to stress about it. But you could even texturize the top if you wanted. But I think this is a really cool, different looking card. Imagine doing this, but instead of using flowers for your wreath, using your butterflies or using your like critters, if you have some little bugs, that would be cute to do a little circle. But I love the wreath look that's so popular right now. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. This was super fun to make, super easy as well. And the best part for me is I got to play with a lot of inks, a lot of stamps, because that's what I love to do. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. I'll see you again next time. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.